I think that's all we needed to do. Okay, I've never really recorded before. Oh yeah, it looks like we're recording. Okay, great. So I wanted to show you just a couple of things because I kind of want to get right into the meat of it. For those who use drag, there's only 4 or 5 of us on the phone, so we can feel free to just kind of speak up whenever you want to. But anyone currently using Dragon, like the old Dragon?
Yeah, this is Tang. I'm currently using the Dragon in urgent care.
Okay, Tank. Okay, great. So that helps just so I don't want to be too amateur for you, but at the same time, for folks that haven't used it, I just want to show, a lot of this will be new to you too, Tang, because of the fact that, it's delivered in a different place. It looks a little different, that kind of thing. So I'll try to make sure to use, in context of explaining the stuff. But so if you guys can see this uh, blank page of power chart here, this is how it's going to be delivered now. You'll see right here, there's a button in this link bar within power chart that says Dragon Medical 1. It's also in the links menu that you can pull down. These are all the linked applications to PowerChart, so it's right there as well. Sometimes what I've been noticing is if there's a lot of stuff in your links menu bar, you may not see it right away. So you've got to go over here to this little toolbar thing, see if it's there. If not, customize. Then you have a view of all of the available applications, and then you can drag them around, and put them more front and center. Like right now, if I want a Dragon to be over a couple, I can just move it over, hit close, and now it's over a couple kind of thing. So wherever you'd like to put it, of course I put it front and center for me, but so that's where it's going to be. And so by clicking on, and this is also in FirstNet as well. So if we have any ER doctors, it's the same kind of thing. You see this button here based on your position, and we've identified all the positions. We're talking like Cerner position. Like if you're ED physician or clinic MA or anything like that that used to use Dragon. We've made sure that it was included here, so you'll actually see this button in your links menu. But when you click on it, you're basically launching the application, and takes a couple seconds here. So you'll see this come up. It looks a little different if Tang, if you're remembering how the current one looks. It looks a little more modern. I'm actually in the build domain, so things are just a tiny bit slower than normal because I don't want to accidentally do anything crazy in the production. But once it loads, you've got a menu bar that looks like this that could be moved around, dragged around, that kind of thing. It could actually be hidden also by that little hide button right there, and it just hides to the bottom of your screen. But what you'll notice on this one is that the menu is very streamlined. There's not much on it. I mean, you basically have a microphone indicator showing you what kind of microphone is paired to this, and I'll get more into that in a second. And then you've got this white flame that when you click on it opens up a few menu items, and we'll get into these real quick too. But the one thing I wanted to start with was the microphone. So you'll notice that my microphone, the little icon here looks like a cell phone with a little squiggly line underneath it. That's because I'm using a microphone called the Power Mic Mobile. This is an application that you can download. We just have to license you if you want to use it. It's because they want their fee on it, of course. But so I wanted to show you sort of how this one works. As well as our regular traditional power mics. We have those power mics that kind of look like TV remotes, that are all over the place in the hospitals. Those are, of course, work too. But the Power Mic Mobile has become more popular than I could imagine. As we're going live with the various sites that we've gone live with, because it does create a certain level of flexibility that is, being appreciated by all the providers using Dragon, because now that you can grab Dragon anywhere you can get power chart, you can do this anywhere. You can go on at home on your Mac if you want to. That's what I do at home. I have one of those old iMacs, the all-in-ones that I tested it on. And, as long as I can get the power chart and launch Dragon, which you can do now, you can pull out your phone, pair it to your session, and you're good to go. And it works great. So it does provide another level of convenience there. So after this, if you feel like, yeah, that sounds like I'd like to try it, then just let me know, because I'll have to license you and send you some information on a text message that helps you pair it for the first time. There's an initial pairing that you have to do. But just to give you an idea what the pairing looks like subsequently, this is just me kind of coming up to my application here. I'm opening the app as I speak. So now it's open on my phone. As soon as I hit log in, you'll see in about 2 seconds or so, now my cell phone went from orange to red. So red means microphone's ready, it's paired, it's just waiting for me to turn it on, basically. And to give you a clue of what this application looks like, if you hit options here, I can show you because you can manipulate the microphone buttons. But that's what the PowerMic mobile app looks like on a phone. Pretty simple design. It's basically 99.9% of the time you're just going to hit that blue and white microphone button, and it's an on and off situation. You hit it once and it's on, you hit it again and it's off, kind of thing. Some of these buttons that are customizable have to do with things like transferring text around, maneuvering between fields, things like that. It's a little more deep dive than we may want to go today, but those are the kinds of things you could do with even the regular Power Mic, with all those buttons on it, uh, related to things like templates and commands and stuff that you may build out in Dragon, and I can show you that stuff too. But since we're on the microphone, I wanted to kind of show you something that is, I wouldn't say it's an issue or a problem. It's just something to know. I feel that when you're doing things like documenting and you're using Dragon, like 1 second seems like an hour. And so we have noticed that when I hit the microphone button, and I'm going to tell you when I hit it, and if you could watch the red circle go to green, you'll notice that it takes about 1 to 2 seconds to go green. So I just wanted you to kind of be aware. I'll show you. So I'm going to hit it now. So you notice that's probably 1.5, 2 seconds. The reason I bring that up is because usually on a plug-in microphone in the old Dragon, it was seemingly instant. You press the talk button, and within a half second you can start talking. And what we're noticing is the only gripe that we're hearing about the new version is that if they don't notice that piece where it doesn't go green for a second or two, it's cutting off the first word. It's not really listening to it. Obviously, it's like not hearing it. And so, Nuance, the company who, the vendor who developed all this stuff, they acknowledge it. They one of the reasons there's a little bit of a delay is now everything's flowing through Citrix, which it's a technical mumbo jumbo, but that's the reasoning they're giving us. And so a deep breath basically is what they're saying. Hey, hit the button, take a deep breath, it'll go green, or just watch it. Make sure it goes green first before you start speaking. It's not a huge deal, but 1 second is not a big deal. But if it's 1 second and then you've started speaking and you look back at your dictation and it dropped the first word, you have to go correct it now. Now you're talking half a minute, and then you do that a bunch of times during the day, and it's gonna start to not save you time, is kind of my take on it. So I'd rather up front just kind of say, hey, just wait that 1 second, make sure it goes green, and then boom, it's gonna be great. Um, current Dragon users, the feedback is just absolutely positive. It's much more consistent. The performance is better. Um, for folks that might have used or dabbled with the application called PowerChart Touch, that has a Dragon element embedded in it also, and that is the same Dragon that you'll be using here. It's the same. It's called, this Dragon Medical One has been around for a while. We're just a little late to getting it, kind of thing. So that's kind of my spiel on the microphone. I just want to tell you. And so for some folks that would like to use this PowerMic Mobile as your microphone, but there's going to be times where either your phone is dead or whatever, and whatever you can think of, you may want to change the microphone back to maybe the plug-in mic that's on the computer. And in doing that, I just want to show you how to do that real quick. So, in my case, say it's like, okay, I've been dictating a while, I don't have a charger, my phone's about to die, whatever the scenario, I can go here to the menu, log off of Dragon real quick. It brings me back to this login screen, and then I can go, I'd like to use this instead. This is my other microphone. It's the headset that I'm talking to you on right now, kind of thing. And then I just hit OK, and it loads it with that microphone. So it's as easy as that. I'm just going to keep it on PowerMic Mobile so that I can, if I want to show you guys some stuff, or if you guys need me to sample anything, at least I can use a different mic there. But you'll notice that, when I go back, I'd have to repair it. So just to give you another example of how short that is, I'm going to log in now. A couple seconds later, it should go red. And there we go. Now I'm paired back again. One thing that I also just, and then I'll get off the microphone piece, um, that I've done personally, just because when I don't use it, of course, like you would, but just for testing and playing around and making sure I know how to use it. I changed my go to sleep time on my phone to 15 minutes, because just for this phone, I'm using my Cerner phone that they've given me for work, because I don't want to have to keep pairing it all the time. Like if you're seeing a patient, or you're talking, you're not actively dictating. Uh, every 5 minutes, you don't want to have to repair all the time. So that's just one thing that I've done for myself, and you might consider, is if you're going to use this phone app, is to increase the time that your phone stays awake. Just because every time it goes to sleep, you have to repair. And it only takes a couple seconds, but it's just something, just something else to do, and a few more seconds to spend, and that kind of thing. So there's that. Okay, there's my microphone spiel. Um, to give you a little bit more
Hi,
clue.
Mike.
Oh, hey, of
Could I, hi, could I just ask a quick question? I missed something.
course.
Um, so is there going to be the old microphone for Dragon? Will that
Yeah.
be compatible with this?
Yeah, actually, the old microphones, if they're plugged into a computer that, historically had Dragon installed on it, that kind of thing, work like a champ. They work like a champ.
Okay.
The reason that the the Power Mic mobile application for me is it's just an added level of convenience, only because now you're not bound by, does this computer have Dragon on it anymore. It's now it's just, the question is, can I get into power chart on this computer? That's really what's cool about this new version. And so at the hospitals and the clinics and stuff, um, I don't think they're going to buy any more power mics necessarily, right? to accommodate every machine. But if you are in a situation where you're like, I really got to get this done. I want to use Dragon right now, but there's no machines available with a microphone plugged in. Uh, you could just take out your phone, pair it to any device now, and it's not a Bluetooth kind of thing. It's actually a network connection, so it could be done with the Wi-Fi in the hospital, or even just your network. It doesn't take up a chunk of data or anything like that, but it's an encrypted network connection to your Citrix session. And it really is just a microphone. It's not storing what you're dictating in there. It just like a conduit to the chart. It only stays in the chart, kind of thing.
So the only
You,
way to access the new Dragon Medical One on a desktop
mhm.
is to use the old microphone, other than your mobile phone. Is that right?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, because you can, yeah, you're basically launching it from your desktop, and then if you want to use your mobile phone as your microphone, that's really all it's doing. It's just acting as your microphone. You see what I
No,
mean?
but I'm saying, like, yeah, can we, because you were talking about how our mobile phones can pair with it. So I
Right,
was just
right.
asking if um our if our anything on our desktop, like if there was, like, I have a microphone right now and a headset.
Oh yeah. Oh, any of those can. Yeah, all those would work as just as well. You just have to pick the mic, like which one do you want to load it with, kind of thing. And
Oh, very
yeah,
nice.
and that's that piece right here. Let me show you one more time. If you log off of Dragon, and you get this like login screen, you could then pick, what mic do I want to load it with, kind
Okay.
of thing. And so, like right now, I have my headset that I'm talking to you on right now, loaded into my, plugged into my computer, and then I've also got the Power Mic Mobile as an option. If you
Will
had
it
a
automatically recognize it, or do we have to input that as a microphone source?
It'll automatically recognize it here in the pull downs. And what Dragon does is it automatically loads Dragon. Like right now, I'm using my Power Mic Mobile. Next time I log into Dragon, it'll remember, what did you use last time, and just load that one. And then if you want to use a different one, you would just come to this screen and choose the microphone you want.
Okay,
See what I mean?
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad anymore. Like, it used to be such a pain to change microphones. And now, as long as the computer is recognizing it, the only thing we've run into a few times here and there is when the USB port is not recognizing the microphone at all. It's not
Yeah.
just Dragon, like the computer itself's like not recognizing it. And sometimes we run into that with Windows 7 devices, because there was a known USB 3 issue on those. So that's why we were kind of delaying certain sites to go live, to give them a chance to catch up to their Windows 10 conversion, because everybody's going to Windows 10 eventually, and that was supposed to clear things up. So we haven't had any issues on Windows 10 so far. But that's the only thing we can think of, and that's another reason why we're introducing the Power Mic Mobile, just because we want to have multiple solutions if we've got microphone issues. Because that is one of those things. Sometimes the nuanced microphones would act up, And it's like we didn't have much other choice at that, with the old version. At least now we could say, well, let's get you hooked up to your phone. At least you don't have to stop working. And most folks are liking the convenience, just because outside of their hospital or clinic work, if they wanted to catch up at home or whatever, not that we want to promote that, but it's a reality, right? And so it's been nice for those. That's the feedback we're getting too, is just that it's just nice that they can grab this anywhere.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and reload this like so. So I just re-chose my PowerMic Mobile, and I'll just hit OK, and it just relaunches your profile like that. And then I just have to repair it really quick, which is you just have to hit login again. A couple seconds later, it goes back. So there it is, paired
Hey,
back to my session. Yes.
um, so will this new medical one be attached to our profile that we already have from the network edition, or
Yeah.
do we have? Because I've done the training thing where I like retext to improve accuracy. Does it transfer over, or do I have to do that all again?
No, actually, okay. So that's a good question. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so we've already migrated your profiles from the old one. Certain elements of the old profile didn't come over. The only reason it didn't come over is because, oh, you might have to mute your computer. Oh, sorry about that. The only reason some of your profile information didn't come over is only because they're migrating from an old like server profile to a cloud-based profile, and some of that stuff didn't transfer. But all of your elements, like vocabulary, um, commands, and templates that you may have created have all come over, and we did that a couple weeks ago for you, for all of you guys. And so that part's done. The only thing that's potentially that you may have to do is if you have some custom vocabulary, like a proper name or that kind of thing. Some of the training that went along with that doesn't transfer because of the difference between the types of profiles that they are. But what we're finding is that the new one is so much more accurate that most people aren't having to do that. So they just gave us that warning just in case, because it's going from like kind of old technology to new technology kind of thing. But other than that, that's what we've been doing. So there's a migration effort that we do. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. Is there an option to improve retext to improve accuracy on this profile
Actually, there
anywhere?
isn't. There's no,
Okay.
there's no more voice training on this one, and there's no more mic calibrations or anything like that. It's all just done within the software. And what I've noticed is that, I'd say maybe the first couple of times you're using, maybe even just this new Dragon, I was like, well, this is pretty good. It's not that much better than the old one. And then I use it a couple more times, and since there's no training, it's supposed to, according to the vendor, it's learning and training as you go, but like very quickly. And I find that was proved out because I used it maybe on the third time. I was blown away how consistent it was. So, and I've gotten that feedback from a couple other doctors too. They're like, wow, I've been waiting for this thing, I've been hearing about it, and I thought at first it wasn't that awesome, but then they just logged on a couple more times and it was great. And so that's been the feedback so far. And I'm glad we're kind of in this sweet spot because we've already gone live with about 5 or 6 places. So I'm not trying to pitch to you guys anything new. It's like I can actually tell you what's going on out there, and it's been good, you know. Okay, so thanks for those questions. Okay, so the only thing that I can think of that would be relevant here in the menu items here, other than the log off piece to get back to your microphone, there's a few things like within each of these guys that I probably want to touch on. So under the options button here, there's not a whole lot of options. And Tang, you probably, if you ever poked around in the current one, there's almost like too many options. But right now, there's just a few. This dictation box actually it's somewhat irrelevant now because of how it works within PowerChart. There was a dictation box feature in the old one and in this one, obviously, that if you wanted to dictate into a box and transfer that text into Cerner, sometimes it performed a lot better because it wasn't having to try and penetrate through Citrix into Cerner and all that stuff. It just dictated into itself, and a lot of providers that got hip to that and would just continue to use the old dictation box. So they still have it here. And what I've noticed on this new one is if you're clicking around, like maybe you're looking at a little bit of chart information on this ZZ test patient here, and you're on the web over here looking up something, and then you go, oh, I got to dictate something, and you're not quite clicked right back in here, and you start dictating. What'll happen is it'll catch it in a dictation box. It'll catch it in something that looks like this. That way your dictation doesn't get lost, because in the old version, if you weren't clicked in somewhere where it can catch it, it would just tell you dictation not available here, and it gets lost. And so it's a I think it's a pretty cool feature, because then it's going to catch it anyway, and if it's accurate and looks good, you don't have to redictate that. Just simply copy and paste it into where you want it to go. you know so that's a cool thing. um the other options on here would be the microphone buttons, but we touched on these with the Power Mic Mobile. If I had a different microphone logged in here, like the Power Mics, it would give you a picture of the Power Mic here with all the options there. I'm not sure if Tang, if you've ever really gone and messed with these, but you can go and, like, say for instance, I mean, these kind of make sense. Next field, previous field, because they're kind of forward and backward buttons, showing dictation box, stuff like that. The Power Mics, the plug-in Power Mics have a lot more buttons, and what most people do with those buttons are they might put shortcuts on there. You might decide, like, hey, I've developed this template that I like to use, and instead of conjuring that up with my voice, I can just hit this button and it comes in. Those kinds of things. And so those are a little deeper divey kind of stuff, but that's the potential for those Power Mics, is you can do a lot of customization on the button. And hotkeys is the only other real options in here. And I've always questioned why we have a lot of hotkeys for Dragon when it's a voice command kind of thing. But there's also, there are some useful things with these, but there's various amounts of functionality here that you can actually set to a key on your keyboard if you'd rather. Some people just like that feel of the keyboard, and so instead of maybe hitting buttons on a microphone, you could say, hey, I'd like to transfer text by, like in this case, by hitting Control Alt T, stuff like that. And so those are available too. But as you see, they're really just condensed these into, like, the most relevant options, ones that were mostly used in the old version. But what I'd really like to get into are some of these things, like auto text and step-by-step commands. These are shortcut type deals that Dragon offers, similar to Cerner auto text, where you can say dot and bring in something like that. You can use Dragon to create the same kinds of things. Sometimes what I've seen with providers, and we've helped them build these before too, is if they're using Dragon a lot and they'd rather just say a command and pull in an existing an existing Cerner auto text, you can totally do that, or a series of them, which has been really great. One doctor that comes to mind is Dr. Morley and Rideout. She has a command that when she says ED normal note, it pops in 3 separate auto texts from Cerner, navigates through the note, and then brings her back up to the top so she can start dictating into the blanks and stuff, just with the one command. So that that really helps her kind of just accelerate into that note. And so, especially, I mean, she does as a normal, so it's pretty much like, she only has to tweak it just a little bit. So that those kinds of things are possible, and that would be something I think that would be better to sort of do that deep dive look at the on a time when, if you're interested in kind of getting beyond just the regular proficient Dragon user, if you want to get really into it, I'd be happy to have a session with you to show you how to build those. But those kinds of things, if you wanted to poke around at all, are in here. I also, it's under step-by-step commands. That's what they're called. You're basically giving a step-by-step. So the initial effort on there is just figuring out what the steps are. Tab a couple times, type this in, hit enter. All those kinds of things, and I can show you how to do that anytime. And also, if you've noticed in the invitation to this today, there's a series of documents. One of them is the slide deck for what's called the Train the Trainer. It says Dragon Medical 1 TTT for Train the Trainer. In that slide deck has some really detailed, with pictures and everything, information about how to build this stuff out. But I didn't want to take too much time today to show you that, because it can kind of get into the weeds a little bit. But let me know personally, and we can spend time on that for sure. The other thing would be manage vocabulary. This is a biggie when you're talking about you know, like proper names and stuff, or uh, a drug that's not in the vocabulary or things like that. Most of we just got the latest version of Dragon Medical One, so most of the drugs and pharmacy type stuff should be in there. Um, but if you're always referring to a Dr. Beakongawa, in my case, that's what I've got in my vocabulary. There may be times where you have to add that, just because it would be impossible for Dragon to have that in the vocabulary. And so, just to give you an idea of how to add something like this is, well, for instance, say you want to add a doctor's name in here, and you would hit that plus, and then I would say the best way to do it is to put the whole phrase in there. So in other words, if I'm going to always say, Dr. You rang or something like that, I want to put doctor in there, like this. And there's a Dr. You rang that I always use as an example that's spelled just like that. And then it says, use default pronunciation. Well, then that's added, it's done. But if I go back to it, here I can edit this, and then I can add a pronunciation, a spoken form, because maybe even after I add a name, it's still not quite getting it. You might have to spell it phonetically, those kinds of things. So in this particular case, just as sort of just an example to show you, I would pronounce, Dr. as doctor, and I would pronounce his last name like that. Right. So that's the phonetic spelling of Dr. Urang is Dr. Urang, and I would save that. And that way it's sort of like, this is what it's hearing, this is what you want it to transcribe. And that's how you would add something like that. And then once you do that, you could still even go back here and train it, because maybe it's still not getting, I would just do all that in the beginning. I wouldn't even try to see if it is going to catch me or not. I would just add a word, train it, and then it's done. It's locked in. It knows how you say it, that kind of thing. And I've been getting better results out of it than I used to. The old version was a little bit like kind of 50-50-ish sometimes, but I'm getting a lot better results now. So that's a quick look at like how you can manage the vocabulary, because the thing about Dragon is, like, if you're dictating along and you see a word that, proper name that's wrong or something, and if you go click in there with your mouse and backspace it with your keyboard and type it in, Dragon thinks it got it right. You see what I mean? So it's not going to know that it's wrong. So I know that it seems a little bit like counterintuitive to spend a bunch of time fixing Dragon, but if you got a couple of names out there that you always refer to, or even a name of another hospital that's kind of weird. Like, I know up in Portland, we always used to use the Willamette County Hospital as an example, because it was just like Willamette, like, how do you spell that? And so we would add that in there. So it's stuff like that you're always having to correct. If you spend just a minute or two like adding them into Dragon, it'll eventually, of course, save you so much more time, because then it'll learn it, it'll get the context in which you're saying it and things like that. So, and again, I guess I wanted to make sure to stress is that a lot of times you might think that, well, in the case of like Willamette County Hospital, I it's always messing up Willamette, right? Well, I wouldn't just add Willamette in your vocabulary. I would add the whole phrase Willamette County Hospital, if that's the way you're going to say it all the time, because Dragon does a much better time catching the phrase that you've trained, because it knows the context in which you're saying it, as opposed to just that one word. Same with last names and stuff. Like, I wouldn't just add Beakongawa or Urang. I would make sure that I'm putting doctor in there, because that's how I'm saying it all the time, and that's where it catches it better all the time. It's just when you put it in the context of the phrase. So anyway, so the reason I'm going over vocabulary is because, of course, when you're using a voice recognition software, that's probably the biggest pain point is, oh, it didn't get me again on that word. um, and for the most part on this new version of Dragon, it's going to be the proper names and stuff like that. So that's that. Any questions on that part? I know I kind of rushed through it, but I just wanted to make sure that I covered that. Okay, so let's see. The only other thing I can think of is that would be helpful is there is a couple of help areas in this this menu item here. This one that says what you can say. This is kind of in lieu of breaking out the manual kind of thing. You can go in here and figure out like what am I able to say with like navigational commands, If you hit navigation, it'll tell you like all the areas in which you can move about in the document without having to touch the mouse, that kind of thing. You can go to uh, what's the other one I wanted to show you? Like for corrections and things like that. It just reminds you of the voice commands to use. And some of the most common ones would be like, if you're dictating along and you see, oh, even if it was your mistake, like you said, 48-year-old male, but it should have been female, you, instead of having to grab the mouse and clicking on it and deleting it, you could just say the words select male. It will then highlight male, and then you can dictate the correct word and it'll replace it. But if it's like a misspelling, you can also do that. And actually, I probably said that wrong because Dragon never misspells a word. It just will put the wrong word in. And so if it's a uh, you know like a dictation mishap or whatever you want to say, like a transcription error, um, you can select that word and then either try to dictate it again to see if it catches you, or add it to your vocabulary. There's all sorts of ways to do it there, but that's how you those are the most common sort of navigational commands, is the select one. You can also, if you're dictating a word, a whole sentence, and you rethink that and you're like, that doesn't sound right, you can say scratch that and it'll scratch the last thing you've dictated, stuff like that. And in the documents that I sent you in this invite, there's a commands sheet that gives you all the common ones, and you'll probably have a half a dozen of them that you'll use all the time once you get rolling. But that's the way to kind of get through it. And so let me maybe just give you an example here. Let me pair my phone again. I went to sleep, sorry. Let's see. Okay, so I'm back here. So if I just put like Dragon soap template, patient is a 77-year-old woman who presents with a rash, period. Select woman. Male. Go to end of line. Scratch that. Next field. So that's some of the examples of how it can go. I mean, obviously that's just a sentence of that's subjective, but that's how you would do it if you wanted to be fancy and just do it all on the fly with Dragon. Some of these, and I'm an old school Dragon guy because I've been doing Dragon so long. I'm still learning if there's any differences between some of these voice commands from the old to the new. When I said go to the end of line, I'm not even, I got to go check to make sure that that's still a relevant command. But because there were some slight differences. So Tang, you might run into some of these. You might want to maybe check out that command sheet that I sent over, because that usually would take me to the end of the line. It'll take me past the period so I can start dictating again. But I got to check to make sure that's still the right, command. Otherwise, I would have to take my mouse and just kind of get it there. But and then you'll notice I said next field. That's also what this would be in my PowerMic application. That's also what these previous and next field buttons would be. So I can just hit the buttons too. And that was a command that I just a really quick template for a SOAP template. I mean, just so I can do examples and stuff. But these little bracketed areas, if I was right here and I hit my button, it'll go to the next field, so you can navigate through a command and template that way. So that's how you do that. It's similar to the auto text inserter that have underscores, as like that's how you get to the next one. You hit F3, and a lot of providers that use Dragon a lot for navigating in, through those auto text, will create a command for them that replicates the F3 key also, so they don't have to hit the keyboard. They can just be using Dragon, hit like a little command button that they've assigned on their microphone, and that'll replicate an F3. It just kind of makes things kind of quicker when you're trying to just use the one tool as opposed to, microphone down, F3 with my finger, hit the mouse, all that sort of thing. That you can try to make it all just, uh, working within the Dragon application makes it a lot faster. So we can help with all those things too. But you might want to just spend a little bit of time just kind of practicing just basic dictation. Maybe what I'll do is just to give you an example. I mean, of course, I'm reading this, but Let me just read the rest of this SOAP note, subjective, and you can just at least get a feel for the performance and how it should be. So when I'll hit the mic. The rash began 1 week ago and first appeared on her back and extended to her abdomen on the left side, period. She first noticed the rash after working in her garden, period. For the first 3 days, she had no associated symptoms, comma. However, on the fourth day, comma, she began to experience severe pain, quote, like being stung by a bee, close quote, period. So you'll notice you got to do the punctuation. That starts to sound weird, but it'll get natural after a while. There used to be a way to do auto punctuation, but every time you'd pause and think, it would throw a period and comma in there, so it wasn't really super convenient. But you'll see, that it's you don't want to do like the rash began and then watch it. You want to actually just finish your thoughts, trust that it's going in, because it performs a lot better if you complete your thoughts in maybe 2 or 3 sentences, maybe even what would be considered a small paragraph before you go back and sort of edit real quick. That you're going to get the best performance that way out of Dragon, instead of like a couple words at a time, because it's if you pause and turn the mic on and off and stuff like that all the time to watch it go in, it's just a little clunkier. So I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, because like the way I think through my fingers, like because we're so used to typing, and so it's a little hard at first to think and speak exactly what you're thinking, and all that. And there's a lot of folks that start, and there's a lot of ums and things like that. It's just because that's how we operate. So it does change you a little bit if you start to really get into using this, on how you sort of get into dragon mode, and you have to, it's a kind of a focused time there. But that's just some observation for me as I was using it when I started using it too. It's hard, because I play piano too, so like everything comes through my hands and fingers, and it just was so weird for me to do this. But anyways, so that's it. Any questions so far? I'm going to go through my slide deck here to make sure I'm not missing anything important. Obviously this will work in the workflow here. It'll also work in the various notes, in Dynamic Doc. It works in PowerNote, works in FirstNet, various other applications within Cerner. It works fine. We actually have pathologists using it in online review as well. We have to, it's a little bit different launch workflow there, because you got to launch the app bar and open up that application at the same time you're launching PowerChart, because that's where it is. The other thing to know too is that if you want to use Dragon outside of Cerner, which normally speaking maybe not, but there are folks that want to use it maybe in their normal day-to-day routine. They're using either like a third-party application or something like that, or they want to use it for I don't know, even dictating notes into a Word document, that kind of thing. This particular version of Dragon that's launched through PowerChart is designed to just work in PowerChart, because it's on the same Citrix session and all that technical stuff. But there is a desktop version of this Dragon that can be installed on your desktop for anything outside of Cerner. So if that's your normal workflow and you're licensed and using Dragon anyways, and you need to use it outside of Cerner, that's all we have to do. Is it's got a slightly different look and feel, because they made it a slightly different color, so we know which one we're dealing with, and maybe even yourself, like if you've launched both, kind of thing, which one, that kind of thing. So if that's something that seems relevant to you, we just engage the local tech to help us get that installed on your desktop, and it would work similarly to how they are working now, where you've got to have the software on there, kind of thing. But it's a much easier installation and stuff like that. But I just wanted to throw that out there in case that comes up with you or any of your colleagues that might want to use Dragon, but they don't typically work inside of Cerner PowerChart, because we're running into that here and there. Let's see, anything else I want to show you? We went over vocabulary. So I would say that in the days to come, after you've had a chance to maybe go in here, launch it, and play around with it, if you feel that, okay, I'm good with this, but I want to see where I can take it to the next level with Dragon auto text and step-by-step commands and things like that, basically like shortcuts to accelerate you even further, I would go ahead and just call, get in touch with me through the, email or something, and we can set up a half an hour session if you want to, and I can just, deeper dive that stuff with you. I'm just checking again real quick, Paul. I just want to make sure that there's nothing that I made some notes to make sure I talked to you guys about. Yeah, that looks good. I think we've covered everything. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. I'm feeling okay about what we've covered. If there's anything else I can cover for you, or have you guys had a chance to even take a look at this yet? Has anybody gone
Yeah, I've
in
been
and?
playing with it during your session right now, just a
Oh,
little bit.
okay. Okay, cool. Okay.
So you're saying it's not live until July?
No. Well, Glendale is not live. You
Okay.
are though. Yeah. So you guys are kind of like, because we're rolling it out regionally and by site and stuff like that, because we got to do the migration effort, and we got to talk to the sites and make sure they're trained and get the word. We're just kind of doing that sort of rollout routine. And plus, it's been a little difficult with most of our support staff either furloughing or not able to go to the hospital. So it's been a little tougher to roll this out. Right now, the old version, even when you go live, the old version is still going to be there as a safety net in case there's an issue. Because we're not going to dismantle the green flame. We're just calling it the green flame dragons. People understand. The green flame dragon, which you see on my desktop, I still have it, the network edition. We're keeping that until probably close to the end of the year when we get everybody up and running. We're supposed to get everybody up by the end of the summer, which I think we're going to do. But there's going to be those who either haven't gotten the memo yet, or because we don't have like full support out in the field kind of thing, and we haven't been able to travel either to sort of advocate for it. So we're just turning it on and letting people know the best we can that go ahead and start using it kind of thing. And we're just doing our best there. And we're sending out like, bi-weekly reminders to say, hey, just these providers are still using the old one. Go check them out. See if they want to, use the new one. It's just hard to get the word out right now. So it's sort of a passive upgrade, I guess is the best way to say it. But in your case, yeah, we're doing our big effort to go live with Glendale on the 7th of July, and then I'm actually in the middle of getting in touch with the folks at St. Helena and Clear Lake and stuff for a late July go live, and then we'll be almost done at that point with everybody, I think, because this June is pretty packed. We're going live with all of Central Valley in about 3 weeks. Ukiah and Howard are going next week, and then just some other sundry sites. One of the ones that's going to hang out for a while is Tillamook, because Tillamook's most of their users are in their clinics, and there's 45 clinics or something going live with Cerner in September. And until they go live with Cerner, they really can't use it. So, this version anyway. So we're just going to go live with them when they go live with Cerner, and Portland Hospital is actually out of scope because they're going to be transitioning to the university there, the OHSU, Oregon State University, and they're going to be going to Epic actually, and they're going to be using their own version of Dragon. So that's kind of the layout there. But yeah, so this access to it is not limited to when you're doing medically home stuff. I guess is my point there is you can do it now, and if some of your colleagues are like, hey, where'd you get that? But because we're not live there yet, we can actually, we've been just sort of taking those onesie twosie requests and just fulfilling them, because I'd rather have the providers that are using it, like you guys, are better advocates than we are. So if you're using it and you're having a pretty good experience, and you tell your friend, right now especially our CIS folks and support folks out in the field, they're having a hard time getting the word out just because they're not there. They're not, in some cases, not able to go to the hospitals yet unless they really have to, stuff like that. And so I don't mind, unless there's other reasons not to, we're just going for it, and because there's no limitation, because once I provision you and you can get to PowerChart, then you can get to this kind of thing. I don't have to worry about like coordinating technical folks at the site or anything like that because there's no software involved. So it's kind of cool.
Hi, Mike. So I turned on the Dragon mic in Dragon Medical One, and I'm using my headset.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's picking up now.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't picking it up. I think it's because I had muted on Teams.
Oh, got you.
And you were talking, but it's working great. That's awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, like, because I've been actually using my headset a lot just because I have it on so much. But when I'm on a call, I can't because But that's why the medical. I mean, sorry, the Power Mic Mobile I use when I'm sort of trying to teach people how to use it, just because I can be on this and then also on that.
Yeah,
But
I like the headset a lot.
I do too.
That's
I
cool.
actually prefer that anyway because I have a nice, comfortable
Yeah.
headset, and it picks it up really nicely.
Right.
I have this like a Jabra one that's just really nice.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good day. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks for joining, you guys. I'll make sure to email this recording out to everybody once, and then feel free to take a look at the documents I put on there as well, and then we can let me know if you have any questions.
So, Mike, if we wanted to do the licensing with you, we need to do it now, or?
Oh yeah, if you want to do that. Let me stop recording real quick. Okay, so